Hi, welcome everyone to the next part in our playlist of us making a browser-based game using Laravel. The game in question being an old game from my childhood called Deuteros. If we have a look at the Google search here, for those of you may or may not be from that genre, not genre, generation. This is not going to go well, is it? So those who may be from that generation, from the 90s, you may remember this game. So we've got this click mechanism, which is basically a timed event that reacts every period of time, which we've yet to determine. And in that timed event, a lot of things are processed, and then it waits for the next timed event. So that I call that the click event. That's what we're going to start looking at today. So let's get started. Okay. So just before we carry on, I do need to sort of look at what we did in the last video's code. And that's because, as I've said in the last video, the confession is this isn't always the first take when I do the video. And again, this is not the first take. In fact, this is the third take on this one. But in making the other two takes and scrapping them, it did teach me something about what we've done and perhaps something that can help make this job a bit easier. So you'll remember in the start controller we had this method here. Now this method is already starting to feel a little bit too bloaty for a controller method, and we will move this into a I don't know, a trait probably is my preferred choice. But yeah, I mean this is something that we need to address, but in order to make this work with the click system, we need to put something else in here as well. So I'll just explain that. We detect the home planet from the chosen race that the user picks. So if they pick humans, the start planet is Earth. So we determine that from this query here, and this gives us the home planet. We then say, right, we create the colony, which is a combination of the orbital factory and the ground station of the user's presence at that celestial body. Okay, so that's what the body, anything to do with the body references. So for example there. So the colony will represent one or both of those installations of the user on that body. But to start with, in the game, as with the original game, you start off on the home planet. You start off on Earth, obviously, but we're twisting that a bit. So you start off on your home planet with your ground station. So you're going to have the body and the user, bring them together to a relationship that we've called colony, and colony can have one or two installations, orbital factory and ground station. And we're starting off with ground station. So that's what this installation is here. But what I've also learnt is on the original game, when you clicked on the timeline, I think you could just click on that clock there. Yeah, I think you just click on that, whichever screen you were on, and that advanced it a year, I think it was. And whenever you click that, the things that happened during that click system were processed. On the planets that you occupied, the resources that planet produces by default get added to your inventory. Now if you have a ground station, they got added to your ground inventory. If you had an orbital factory, if you had the MTX machine, which was like a machine that's going to come into play a bit later on in our game, but if you have the MTX machine, the mass transit machine, was it something like that, then it automatically beamed up from the surface to the orbital installation. If it didn't, or in the early part of the game, what you had to do was shuttle the resources up manually. So that will happen as part of a different process. But certainly the ground installation that we have here for the starting player now has, or is now in a position to receive the resources that is produced by the planet. And we know that Earth does indeed produce certain resources. I have is that a list? Oh yeah. So I have this website here that I refer to. So you can see on Earth here we get iron all the way through to methane. So now that we have a ground installation on Earth, for example, the Earth is now, for every click as part of the click system, should get those resources. So that's what we need to do. Now, the bit that I learnt was I was going to we do create a many-to-many for the resources. So I'll tell you what, let's do that first, and then we'll come back to the not peculiarity, but the thing that I've learned. Eventually, we will move this out of the controller method, by the way, at some point, but let's just get it working. So in order to do the resources, I have some notes somewhere. Where are my notes? I did have some notes on this. Here we go. So in order to do the resources for the installation, so yeah, it's a many-to-many of installation and resource, and that is the stocks table there. So we already have that in place. Installation, so that in this instance that'll be the ground station. The resource, which is the mineral involved that the planet produces, so it could be iron, titanium, aluminium, and then we have the this is actually called the stocks table, and this is going to be used as that many-to-many. So if we go to installation, you see we have it there, resources with the stocks table, and if we go to resource, we have it there with the stocks table. It belongs to many-to-many. Okay, so we have that in place. What we need to create now, though, is this is the bit that I didn't do before. When we create the user's setup details here, I also now want to create the many-to-many of the stocks, or not create, but add the records in now, even though the 0 to start with. And the reason for that is, rather than saying, okay, if the entry doesn't exist, let's create the entry, then let's populate it with an increment of, however many resources. If we just create it now, even though it's set to 0, it means that when the click event occurs, I don't have that extra overhead of having to work out, does the entry already exist? If it doesn't, create the entry, and then we do something with it. If we just create it now, then we can just add to it, from 0 upwards. We don't have to check, does it exist? We know it exists. So that's all I was going to do, really. So on that basis, so what we're trying to create here are these stock records, one for each user resource combination. So let's have a look at that. So let's see, what's going to be is there a relationship we can use already to do that? Home planet is the colony installations, right? So this is the installation here, so we can use this one. So let's give this a variable, installation equals. So now with this installation, we can use the resources relationship, and now, yeah, we need to loop over the planet's resources. So what we can do here is home planet, we could do a with. Now what does the home planet have as its resources? Oh, that's called resources. We're calling R1 stocks, aren't we? Okay, for the installation resources. So this is resources. So we should be able to do this. Should be able to. So if we do with resources, then if we say, let's see, for each, and then if we say home planet resource, resources as, I'll just call it R for now in case there's any conflict in the name. So why are we not statement as an empty, but oh yeah, that's fine. So for each of the resources that the planet produces, we now need to create that for the installation of that user. Well, for both installations, but for now we only have a ground installation. So installation resources, did we call it resources on here? Installation, oh yeah, because it belongs to the resources class here. I hope that doesn't get too confusing a bit later on. So installation resources create, and we need to add the resource ID. We obviously have the installation, so the resource ID is going to equal r.id from our loop here, and then we have to set the quantity as 0. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all it is that we had to do. So what we'll do is we'll rerun the query. Let me just bring this over here. Okay, so okay, I should have checked that here, but we have no errors. No, that's good. So if we check the database, so we have our user 1, so that means our installation 1 is the ground, that's fine. So in our stocks now, so yeah, this hasn't worked, has it? So earth is 4, so the elements for body ID 4 we don't add any for 4. Did we not ever add any for earth in the seeder? Is this one of the mysterious things where it just disappeared? Let's have a look. Okay, so all the resources are set. Okay, so, oh, yeah, then we have the recipes. There we go. So the bodies, Mercury, Venus, Earth. Look at that. It's a typo. Aha! What are the odds of that? Well, probably not very high. Okay, so we have an error, so that's good. It means we're at new code. Add resource ID to fillable property to allow mass assignment on resource. On resource? That doesn't make sense. Why would resource ID be on resource? I understand this. We need to add it to the fillable, protected fillable. But why on resource? That doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound right. So this is which is the line highlighted there? So it is the one we've just added. Oh, right, yeah, okay. I think I know what this is. what we've tried to do is create on the related model, not on the pivot. Okay, so what we basically need is this. So we need installation resources. Okay, so I'm happy with that bit. Attach, so we can get our ID. And then we need to add the quantity here like this, which is obviously 0. There, that should be it. Oh, I've lost my opening brace. Okay, that should be it. Now, what I'm going to do, I can't be, but oh, yeah, I should run. I'm thinking maybe just as part of the migrate script, just to actually create the user as well, so that I don't have to register every time. In fact, let's do that. It'll only take a second. So we go into seeders. I'll take it out once we get back to more relevant stuff to do that. So if we go to here, let's just add it at the end here. And we can say user create email @gmail.com, password. Now, as you're probably aware, we can't just put in a raw password. That would be very naughty. And username is, it doesn't really matter, does it? I'll just put Carney, which is what I've been putting. Okay, so let's run this migration again. Hopefully this will create our user. Yes, let's just check the database. Yeah, but no race is set, so all I have to do now is just load that page again. I don't have to run the migration. I don't have to do the registration every time. So if I just reload base, excellent. Humans. Okay, so that's worked. Let's see if the stocks. There we go. So our installation ID and the 8 resources, which are the first 8, which is what Earth produces, are now here in separate entries in this stocks table. So okay, so we have the initial records in place now. So now we can concentrate on the click system. So let's see. Okay, so we'll end this video here. We'll put this in as just a refinement to the registration process, and we can start on the click system next time rather than trying to start it now. If we get a fresh start with the next video, then we can make some good headway based on what we've done today. So as always, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please click the like button. If you want to see more of this kind of video, please click the subscribe button. Much appreciated, and see you in the next video. Thank you.